Okay, here we are in beautiful downtown Bridgeport, Connecticut at the Cathedral Parish, St. Augustine Church and St. Patrick Church, coming to you from the chapel at St. Augustine Church. And we're here today to introduce our RCIA program. The RCIA stands for the Rite of Christian Initiation of Adults. And this program was basically established after the Second Vatican Council to try to restore the process of Christian initiation as perhaps it was at the beginning of the Church's history, more or less. The idea is that those who want to become members of the Catholic Church, those who either are adults and are converting, or those children over 7 years of age who are preparing to receive the sacraments, either all three sacraments of initiation, baptism, confirmation, and communion, or those who have been baptized as infants, and who are looking to receive the other sacraments of initiation, including communion and confirmation. This is the process by means of which these people are brought into the church, and there usually are, the idea is that they're accompanied by what we call a godparent or a sponsor. And the object is that the sponsor is a role model in the Catholic faith for the person who is being initiated fully into the life of the Catholic Church. So as I mentioned, anybody over 7 years of age, according to the guidelines that show us how to do this RCIA program, Rite of Christian Initiation of Adults, an adult is considered by canon law anyone over 7, that is anyone who has reached the age of reason, who is capable of understanding and embracing the sacramental life. So in our particular program here at the Cathedral Parish, there are no fees. This is unlike other religious education programs which envision a child being baptized as an infant, and then at the age of 7, more or less, the child is prepared to receive Holy Communion. And then at the age of 13 or 14, more or less, the child is prepared to receive the sacrament of confirmation. We have done away with that program here at the Cathedral Parish because it simply doesn't work. The idea is that the children are educated in the faith during this period, but the missing piece that we found is that the parents are not involved. So the children are typically dropped off at the parish to be educated by a director of religious education, also known as a DRE, and by catechists, volunteer catechists. And particular books are used, and the object is that the kids learn the faith from the catechist, from the DRE, and from the book. We have found, of course, that this does not work. What typically happens is, once children receive First Communion, they never come to church again, and they return for a year or two of preparation to receive confirmation, and typically they leave the church after confirmation. So our bishop, Bishop Caggiano, has instructed us priests, or given us leeway, you might say, to do whatever we want to do with religious education because it simply does not work. So here at the Cathedral Parish, we've decided to employ the official RCIA model, by means of which any child over 7 years of age is entered in the program. And here, as I mentioned, there are no fees. We charge nothing, so that no one can say to me, as the pastor, I gave you $150, you owe me a sacrament. That's not how it works. Furthermore, in our program, one parent is required to attend the class each Tuesday night with his or her child. Our object is not so much to educate the children as it is to educate the parents, so that the parents may educate their children. The Church makes it very clear that the parents of the children are the first teachers of the faith. And so the parish's job is not merely to teach classes to children who never hear about the faith at home, never practice the faith at home, never come to church, etc. Rather, our task here, our goal here, is to educate the parents, convert the parents, so that they will want to live and practice the faith, and to teach their children in the ways of faith. That's our goal here. So, in order to accomplish that, this is the method that we are using. Our classes meet on Tuesday nights from approximately 7 o'clock in the evening to 8:30 in the evening. And the object is that the parents and children check in with their catechist here in the church, the main church, from 6:45 to 7 o'clock p.m. And at that time, the catechist records the attendance at the class with the parent and the child, and also collects or makes sure that the child has had a bulletin signed on Sunday morning. In order to ensure that the children are attending Mass during this process, we ask that each child and each parent get a bulletin, the Sunday bulletin, and have that bulletin signed by a priest or deacon at the end of Mass, and then present that bulletin to their catechist on Tuesday evening to demonstrate the fact that they assisted at Mass or they attended Mass. In the bulletin, each week on Sunday, appears both what we call a handout, basically an outline of the class material for the Tuesday to come, and a worksheet, a question and answer sheet basically, that the parents and children are asked to complete, to work on during the week, well, from Sunday to Tuesday, or if they don't get that done from Sunday to Tuesday, then on Tuesday night with the catechist, they work through the worksheet together, reading and answering the questions, and if there are any questions that are unclear, the catechist helps them to answer those questions. In the end, all these questions from the worksheets that come out every Sunday, and we work on every Tuesday night, these are the questions that make up the final examination. In order to be declared prepared to receive the sacraments, I, the pastor, who am responsible for making this decision, need some sort of mechanism, some sort of assessment to determine whether the children are ready to receive the sacraments or not. Because there are so many children, we had 125 this year who completed the program last year. In order to determine whether or not they know the faith sufficiently to be able to receive the sacraments, and that they're prepared to live and practice and continue to learn the faith, this examination or test or assessment is the mechanism by which I make that determination. So in our class here, the requirement for passing the exam was 80%. Now, just for the record, this past year, we had approximately 125 kids, as I mentioned, well, adults as well, who took the examination. And of those 125, approximately 25 or 30% passed the examination after 1 year. There were also students from various other categories, we might say, who were not able to attend the classes, who studied the material online, as perhaps you're looking at this online right now. And those homeschooled students, so to speak, 4 of them were able to pass the examination without actually having attended the class, simply because they put in the effort necessary to watch the videos, to do the worksheets, to memorize the prayers that were necessarily memorized, including the Our Father, Hail Mary, Glory Be, the Act of Contrition, the Apostles' Creed, and the Nicene Creed. These were the required prayers for memorization. And those were, we determined that the kids had memorized the prayers by a vocal or an oral examination. So this is the program that we have lined out here, and in the end, it is I, the pastor, or whoever the pastor is when I'm not here anymore, who determines whether or not the children are ready. The RCIA program itself does not determine any length of time that's required for this preparation. Traditionally, or typically in the United States, a child will be in a sacramental preparation program for a couple of years, and at the end of those couple of years, whether he knows anything or not, he receives the sacrament of communion. Later on down the road, when he's approximately 13, 14 years old, he's in a 2-year program of confirmation preparation, and whether he knows anything or not, he receives the sacrament of confirmation. We're done with that. Now, the determining factor about whether someone is ready or not to receive the sacraments is whether he knows the faith or not. It's as simple as that. And whether, along with our catechists, we have the sense that the people who are requesting the sacraments are actually going to practice the faith. In the United States today, as I mentioned earlier, our bishop recognizes, and all of our pastors recognize, that the typical experience is children receive the sacraments and then they never come to church again. We're done with that. It's over. So, this is the way the program will work on Tuesday evenings. We check in at 6:45 to 7 o'clock, as mentioned, and the catechists record the attendance of the children and the parents and make sure that they attended Mass on Sunday. Then from approximately 7 o'clock to 7:15, we carry out a devotional activity, which is to say we pray the Divine Mercy Chaplet, or we do a part of the Rosary, or we do adoration for a very brief period, obviously. And during Lent, we did the Stations of the Cross, a sort of a truncated version of the Stations of the Cross, so that the parents and children could become familiar with these devotions and hopefully practice them at home. Then from 7:15 approximately to 7:45, I give my presentation in Spanish and English in the church, while those people who don't speak Spanish, the Vietnamese, for example, or the other language groups that we have who have English as a common language, watch a video presentation in the school next door. I record this presentation as I'm recording this one in English only, so that while I'm giving the presentation in Spanish and English in the church, those who speak English only, or the English language speakers, listen to the recording in the school. Then from approximately 7:45 to 8:30, the children and their parents together are in the classroom with the catechist over at the school, working through the worksheet, discussing questions that come up, asking questions that perhaps they've thought of during the week or over the course of time. And my task as the pastor is to visit the classrooms and stop in and say, does anyone have any questions about anything? Let me see what we can do to answer those questions. So, at the end, or through the course of the class, the course, I should say, through the course of the course, we had periodic assessments, sample questions, similar to those that would be asked at the end of the year. And we had a preliminary final examination, a month or 6 weeks before the end of the class period, to get people a sense of how well they know what's going on, whether they've learned the faith or not. And finally, a month or so before the Easter Vigil, we had a final examination to determine which students over the course of this year had mastered the material and whom we determined to be ready to receive the sacraments. As I mentioned, there were eight-year-olds who passed the test, and there were 8-year-olds who failed the test. There were 18-year-olds who passed the test, and 18-year-olds who failed the test. There were 40-year-olds who passed the test, and 40-year-olds who failed the test. The only way that we can make a determination about whether people have mastered the material is whether or not they can pass that test. And of course, we adjusted the test so that the students are not simply memorizing answers to questions and bringing that memorized information to the assessment and writing it down, but we kept adjusting the test along the way to ensure that people were mastering the material and not simply memorizing the answers to questions. Let me give an example. The first question on the preliminary final examination was this one: is Jesus Christ man or God? Now the answer to that question is that he's both. Jesus Christ is fully God and fully man. So typically, a student presented with a question like this, is Jesus Christ God or man, will pick one. That tells us that the child does not know that Jesus Christ is both God and man, and tells us that he's not prepared yet to receive the sacraments of initiation and live the Christian life. Another sample question: why do Catholics worship Mary? The answer to that question is very simple. Catholics do not worship Mary. We venerate Mary. There are 3 different levels of veneration, you might say, that we speak about in the Catholic faith. Worship is reserved to God alone, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Veneration or honor is given to Mary as the Mother of God, obviously, and the one full of grace and free from sin. And then the saints are given another level of honor. These three levels in the theological language are, what is it? I can't think of the words right now. But the point of the question is, we do not worship Mary. So the reason I ask the questions in this way is that these are the kind of questions that people ask us. People will say to me, do you Catholics believe that Jesus is God or man? The answer is, we believe that he's both, fully God and fully man. People will say to me, why do you Catholics worship Mary? The answer is, we don't. We honor her, we venerate her. So these are the kind of questions that we have on our final examination. The only way we can determine whether people are more or less knowledgeable about the faith or not. So, as I said, all the questions from the examination, although perhaps worded differently, came from the worksheets during the course of the year. So if the parents and children had worked through the worksheets together with their catechist, or at home, or online, that's another possibility, then they would have been prepared to answer these questions. Unfortunately, some people who were not prepared at the end of the time became rather upset that their children were not able to receive the sacraments this year, but according to the RCIA guidelines, there is no time frame. It's not a program that lasts 1 year. It's not a program that lasts 2 years. It's a program that lasts as long as necessary in order to educate people in the faith so that they may live and practice the faith together. So this is our program. This is the program that we will be running again in the year to come. And we welcome anyone of any age, over 7 or under 7, who wants to learn the faith to join us on this journey. It's been an experiment. It's been a learning experience for all of us. And in the end, apart from the people who were somewhat upset that they weren't able to receive the sacraments after 9 months of preparation, many, many adults came to me and said, thank you very much for this program. We learned more than we've ever learned in the course of our lives about the faith in this program. So we welcome anyone who wants to join us on a journey of faith and a journey into the mind of God. See you next time for class number 2.